It's a boredom day. It's a severe boredom day, as you probably already know, because Bitcoin has once again remained in the exact same area that we've been seeing for many, many weeks now. But what's another week? What's one more week? What's another 2 weeks, actually? 2 weeks of more sideways. Let's get ready for it. Anyways, today's video, I do want to address a couple of new things, actually. Some that we just haven't even looked at in, it's got to be like a year and a half now. That I do think provides a bit of color on the current situation and can maybe play into the overall idea that I've been looking at on this channel, that long-term Bitcoin's kind of climbing up the wall of worry here. We'll also look at a little bit of corollary markets as well. And other than that, I want to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel. It's a nice little Tuesday, I think. My leg's all fucked up, so I can barely walk right now. So I'm just hobbling around. And unfortunately, it's like the worst time for this to be happening because I could be doing all sorts of things with this free time that Bitcoin has given us. Anyways, let's just jump right into it. First things first, let's start off with NASDAQ. It's the one interesting thing that we're going to be looking at to start it off because it did hit that first sort of initial target that we were looking at, 15,000 bucks or so. In this case, it did reach all the way down to, it reached around and down to 15,020 bucks. So I'm wrong, $20 off and 75 cents, by the way, as well. Now getting its first bounce, which I expect can probably take a little bit of time. If we do the old LARP lines here, maybe something like this where, it bounced up a little bit, maybe trades a little bit sideways. And then the real question is, does it actually break 15,000 bucks or not? If it does, next area I'm looking at is somewhere around this gap over here, coming in from June of this year at about 14,500, give or take a few bucks from that number. Of course, if it does hold this region, you see it, charge back up towards the highs, well, this thing's going to break out sooner rather than later, probably looking at like September. So I suspect that, generally speaking, this one's going to be range bound between these two boundaries, probably at least for the next month until September. And that's generally speaking when things do start to move in traditional markets. As the big boys get back to their offices, they typically do take the summertime off, especially August. So it's that last month before many people, they're like before their kids have to go back to school and shit. So whatever. Anyways, as you already know, things are fucking slow. So let's just get into Bitcoin right here. Bitcoin, I do think is a little bit interesting, at least on the 12-hour time frame. We still do have in the more near term, which we have not spoken about in quite some time just because so little has happened, but there is still this hidden bearish divergence that we did see put in on the 8th of August. I still believe that this one's probably going to play out a little bit more to the downside, maybe put Bitcoin somewhere down around the lower boundary of this consolidation range. That could be in like the upper $28,000 territory. Basically, if we're just looking at it from this particular view, we can actually put in some nice blue boxes. Where are my boxes? Elsa's back home. She had to go get food this morning because I'm literally incapable of it right now. Like I'm actually, I actually cannot walk at all. And then of course the downside right around here, we can all see that 12-hour white moving average, which is the 200 simple, is starting to kind of move in alignment with that lower boundary. But basically this would be the trading range, which we can go ahead and verify with the HPDR range indicator a little bit later. But before we get into that, I do want to speak about another thing that's relatively new on this channel, and that is the fear and greed index over here. So it is going to be in the bottom pane, obviously, and we're going to be overlaying that with price action right here. I'm actually going to get rid of this volatility indicator. Yeah, there's a few interesting things with that, but nothing groundbreaking right now. Anyways, so one of the major things that we've been kind of speaking about on this channel, specifically for the last, I guess since this year started, we started to call the lows in around December of last year. So basically, yeah, basically like this whole year is that Bitcoin is in the process of likely climbing the wall of worry. Now, climbing the wall of worry is an ancient concept going back to, it's got to be like the early 1900s, I'm guessing, is when from when I read, when I first started to hear that get picked up. But basically it is this: after a very, very long-term downtrend and, maybe a macro cycle low, there is typically a period where price action does slowly, ever so slowly, start to climb up as it completes its consolidation and leads into a macro reversal, and down the line, not necessarily right now or anytime soon, new highs as the general long-term upside trend continues. So in this case, I do believe that we're still seeing something like this on Bitcoin long term. Looking at the fear and greed index, I think was just kind of like a good, or just the most direct way in looking at, I suppose, human emotions with regards to that. And why is it called the wall of worry? Well, because people are fucking fearful, obviously, to reference the title of today. And And of course, we can actually see that charted in this format right here using the crypto fear and greed index. Now you can obviously see that it is, you know, in the more neutral zone as of right now. But generally speaking, I would say, and I would also ask community as well. It does seem like that there's still a lot of just overall fearful sentiments within the market. People continue to say the macro's bad. That's been the saying for like the last couple of years. It's true last year, 2022. This year, I don't know how much it matters. Bitcoin up 100% almost. Real stocks up almost all-time highs, some making significantly new all-time highs. But yeah, in this case right here, I just want to compare this to the last few times that we've seen a wall of worry climb for Bitcoin, which the last time we did see was coming off the Rona jump over here in March of 2020. Again, this was an incredibly like dull and boring time during the market. If you were around during basically this time of the summer, June, July, August area, it was just fucking awful. Like basically as bad as what we're looking at right now, maybe even a little bit worse. Because remember that Bitcoin was basically trading between like 8,900 and 9,300 for 2 whole fucking months. And then really just went more sideways over here. But if we compare that with the indicator in the bottom pane, we can see something similar in this case. I might have already drawn out one of these trend lines, but yeah, in this case, you know, there was kind of an accumulation of greed and fear in the, you know, as Bitcoin kind of worked its way up, mostly oscillating around the neutral / slightly fearful zone, as you can see right here in this region. And then, of course, you know, it zoomed up towards all-time highs and everyone was really, really happy, as you would expect. Same thing kind of coming out of the 2018, 2019 slump right here. Again, hanging a lot around this neutral zone, oscillating a little bit to and fro from it, as Bitcoin did rally up to 14,000 bucks. Inevitably did fall back down. But hey, you know, same sort of interplay right there. Unfortunately, this data only goes back, however, to February of 2018. I would really have liked to have compared this with this segment over here in like kind of like the end of 2015, beginning of 2016. Another extremely boring time as Bitcoin just traded sideways for what seemed like aeons. But I'd suspect that you'd probably see something relatively similar. At least that would be my guess. And if we look at our current trajectory, well, what do you know? It's a very, very similar thing going on right here, in the sense that, you know, we see that the fear and greed index is oscillating between, you know, basically around the neutral zone, a little bit of fearful, a little bit of greedy, but basically kind of, you know, hovering it right here essentially. And if you were a trendline fanatic, then you could maybe be looking at something like this as well, you know, correlating that with price action. You know, in these cases, the trendline touches do actually correlate quite well, to be fair, with price action lows. I'll actually just mark off a few while we are here because, well, they are technically speaking in the cards. So we have these last few ones. We have a lot of them over here because this was just a general low, right? And then we even have this one right here. Yes, price action did rally up quite significantly actually from this low, about 40% move. So all of these were major lows. Some of them have been, well, more major than others, let's say. But overall, you know, another test on this trend line, is that going to hold true yet again? I mean, if it trades sideways here for another week or two, you will inevitably be getting another trendline test. So perhaps, yes, you know, indicating that the wall of worry is getting, you know, climbed one more ladder rung at a time. Anyways, moving on now, we can get into the HPDR ranges. Again, to kind of reference the earlier idea, still looking at the 12-hour HPDR range. Low side showing about 28,500. High side showing about 31,350, basically the current highs of this rally, and the average coming in at 29.9. Again, I would be saying that either a 12-hour closure above 29.9 or just a wick higher than last week's wick high, which is 30,244, would be good enough for me to resolve this range to the upside. Likely be getting a move somewhere closer to 31,000 bucks and maybe even beyond at that point. By the same token, things do come into a pretty big issue here. If Bitcoin does start to close below the 12-hour range lows, 28.5 averages trade below. I think it was the 1st of August lows right here. If that happens, yeah, very likely looking at more than $1,000 dump BOLA party, somewhere between like 26.7 to 26.9 or so would be my guess, and probably bounce there and then come back to it after that. But for right now, we can go ahead and reference stochastic momentum, see where the pivots are today. You know, is there anything new here? Is there anything new? You know, again, this is going to be more of it's going to start to turn into a bearish reset. If Bitcoin does fail to continue to the upside. Yeah, if it fails to continue to the upside. All right, so starting off with the, let's actually start off with the 2-day time frame. 2-day time frame will turn back up to the upside above 29.8. So currently still to the downside, to be fair. Daily time frame is going to turn down below 29,650 upon today's daily closure. 12-hour time frame will also continue with downside below 29.6 or so. 6-hour time frame will turn down below 29.3, currently trading about $90 above as of this moment. 4-hour time frame is also going to turn down below 29,420, good number, and hourly time frame is already down below 29,450. So in the more near term, which again, we haven't really spoken about the past few videos, I'd probably should be looking for Bitcoin to make a little bit of a slight move lower. I don't know how much it matters at this point because the ranges are so fucking tight, but but again, this is kind of what I'm basing it off of over here. We can maybe even reference the 4-hour time frame, see if that's even closer, and yeah, showing the bottom side at 28.7. Yeah, anywhere around there, and tops out at 30,240. Actually, a pretty good one right here, as that does get last week's high. Anyways, I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off. Again, just another fucking boring day in crypto land. Go outside and touch some grass. I don't even know what that means, man. I can't go outside. I can't fucking go outside. This is awful. This is the worst. Jesus Christ. Hopefully this heals relatively soon. I'm praying for tomorrow. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Holy shit. In that case, I'm going to be signing off on that note. I want to wish you the best of best. Take care. Much love, and see you hopefully Wednesday.